Welcome back to the channel, and we're gonna start doing some prep work for tomorrow. And the first thing I'm gonna do is make pie crust because I'm planning on making some pumpkin pies. So follow along. I got this recipe from Preppy Kitchen. So first I'm gonna do the crust today, get it in the freezer, and then tomorrow make the puree, make the actual filling and bake it tomorrow. But I want to get this crust in the freezer so that way it can at least chill overnight. But yeah, here we go. Okay, so the recipe calls for a cup of butter. So that's going to be 2 half sticks. And so I'm going to go and cut that now. I'll show you a little piece of how I do it. And then, so it's going to be in 2 batches. We're doing it in 2 batches, so 2 separate 1 stick butters chopped up. So 1 half is going to go in the fridge while we work the first batch, and then bring it out for the second batch. But yeah, so let's go cut up some butter. Okay, so here I got the butter all chopped up. So one is going to go in the fridge to chill while we work with the second one for the first batch. So you got to remember, when you're making pastry doughs, you really want your butter to be ice cold. So I might still put both into the fridge just because I worked this one with my hands a little bit and it warms it up. So I might put it in the fridge for like 5-10 minutes just to bring the temperature back down. And while that happens, I'm going to measure out the flour. So the flour is 360 grams total, so 102 batches of 180. So I'm going to measure that out. Sometimes recipes will have cup measurements, but I highly recommend getting yourself a scale and actually just doing it by weight because it's a lot more accurate than using cups. The reason why is when you put a cup, right? Like, so you have a cup, right? So it's not really packed in there. It's, you know, you could have error in there. And so it might look like a whole cup, but it might really be 2/3 a cup with 1/3 of just space in there. And that's why most bakers use weights instead of cups, just because it's more accurate. But yeah, I'm going to measure the flour out and get the butter back in the fridge to chill for a little bit. And then we'll be back. Okay, so for this recipe, I am going to be using a food processor. So we have this Ninja thing that's like a food processor and a blender in one. And so we're going to do in 2 batches, so the flour goes in. Alright, so the other dry ingredients that we need to put in here is going to be a tablespoon of sugar. So we got a tablespoon of sugar. And a teaspoon of salt. And a teaspoon of salt. So, there we go. Okay, so now we're just gonna mix this up in the food processor. So we're just gonna pulse it so it just kind of mixes. That's all you need to kind of mix it in. Alright, so we're gonna add the butter in now. So we're just gonna put the butter in. Just kind of throw it in there. Try to be a little methodical about it, but it really doesn't matter because it's all gonna get sort of blended in. Okay. And then we just pulse it until the butter gets mixed in. That looks good. And so you can kind of, if you look in there, kind of see like there's a little pea-sized butter pieces in there, and the flour is kind of mixed in. So we've coated the flour with the butter. Now we're gonna do the second batch. Okay, so another 180 grams of all-purpose flour goes in here. So just a heads up, I am using all-purpose flour. I don't know if I mentioned that. Don't use bread flour because it's gonna make the dough a little chewy. So all-purpose has a little less protein content, so it makes it a little more flaky than chewy. So that's why you want all-purpose flour. All right, so the second half of the butter is gonna go in. So the difference with this time, you'll see, is so before we pulsed it quite a few times to get the butter to be kind of small, relatively small pea size. But for this one, we're just gonna pulse it a few times just to get the butter kind of combined with the flour, but we don't want it to be small pieces. You want little bigger pieces in the flour with this pulse. So here we go. 1, 2, and that should be enough. And so you'll see in here you got little bigger pieces of, like, this is a flour coated piece of butter, and that's kind of what you want. You don't want it to be, it'll help when you bake it. It'll make the crust a little more flaky. So now we're gonna start adding a few tablespoons of ice water to get the flour to kind of come together. So few tablespoons of ice water, and you're using ice water because we don't want the butter melting, right? So let's go with 1, 2, 3. Let's go with 4 for now. All right. So we're just gonna keep pulsing it until it starts to come together. Okay, see that? And so what you want is to be able to, like, you see how that crumbled when you squeeze it? When you squeeze it, you don't want it to crumble. You want it to be able to hold its weight. So we need a little more water. Maybe 2 more tablespoons. So you don't want to add too much water because it's going to take away from the flakiness of the crust. You just want to add just enough to where the dough starts to come together. So let's see. And I think that's good. So you see how it's like holding its shape when I squeeze it? So this is good. So this dough is good now. We're going to pour it out on the mat and start bringing it together. All right, so we're gonna flour our surface a little bit. I got myself a pastry mat because I figured it'd be useful. And it has little rings on it, so you can measure out some nons and rotis as well. So it's a multi-purpose mat here. So let's.
And one thing with flour is it gets everywhere.
So let's pop this out. Yeah, if you've ever worked with Alright, so let's kind of bring this together. So one good thing about the pastry mat, you kind of like fold it over, push down, there, and come this way. Alright, so you kind of see it's starting to come together, so we just gotta like bring it together. Right now it kind of looks like a mess, but as you kind of like start kneading it a little, it's getting everywhere. so we can probably speed this part up a little. So when you edit, you don't have to watch me doing this the whole time, but right, so this makes 2 halves. I think that's half, right? I need to put more flour on the bottom here. Alright, so we're gonna wrap these up in saran wrap, one of my worst tasks that I hate doing. And then we're gonna pop them in the fridge for a little bit, let them cool down, and then we'll roll them out later. So, I just got the pie crust out of the fridge. You can kind of see it's pretty hard right now. So we're gonna let it sit for 10-ish minutes to kind of like warm up a little so we can actually like work with it. But yeah, so this is kind of what we're at with the dough. I threw some flour on my work surface so it doesn't stick when I start rolling. I'm gonna throw some flour on my dough rolling pin here. And then once this is easier to work with, then we'll start rolling it out. Alright, so we're gonna start rolling this out. We wanna get to like a 12-inch. So I got 12 here, so I'm gonna try to get to the 12-inch line. So here we go. Hopefully it doesn't crack too much. You want to like roll it and keep moving it so it doesn't stick. Alright, so you got it rolled out. I rolled it out to 13 inches. I had it at 12, but it didn't fit my 9-inch OXO little pan here, so I rolled it out a little bit more, so hopefully this time it'll fit better. You just kind of like roll it out here. Okay, so I kind of nudged this in here, and I went around the sides, I trimmed off some, and I filled in spots. It's rustic, so, I mean, this is how it's going to look for now. I mean, it's a rustic pie. So now, the next thing I'm going to do is crimp it all the way around, just so it looks a little more uniform. And the way I'm going to do it is like the thumb and 2 fingers, and you just kind of, just do that. You just go around doing that. Good.
Yeah.
Alright, so I went around, I crimped it the best I could. It's gonna be rustic like I said, but now this just goes in the freezer overnight. And I got another batch that I'm gonna do. Hey guys, good morning. So ignore the hair, it's early. Today is actually our day. We're gonna do Thanksgiving, so we did some prep work yesterday. I used we made the pie crust and get that in the freezer. And then I did spatchcock the turkey. I don't want to put that on camera just because it's a little graphic. So, but yeah, today we're going to be doing all the cooking. So the plan for today is getting the pumpkin pies in, getting the turkey on the smoker, going to be smoking it, and then what else we got? We got mashed potatoes, macaroni. I'm going to do some cream corn, and I think that's it. Oh, and my wife did a tiramisu, but yeah, Faz did a tiramisu, but we're not gonna share that recipe. That's kind of a family recipe. So, but yeah, so I have spatchcocked the turkey. So he's just sitting here. I took him out of the fridge. As you can see, it's kind of dried up, but yeah, I'm just letting it stay here to let it come closer to room temp. And then we're gonna start making our pie filling. Got some brown sugar, pumpkin puree, evaporated milk, and some eggs. So yeah, let's get started. Alright, let's get started. So ignore the mess in the kitchen. We're going to be cleaning as we go. But yeah, so the first thing we're going to do is measure out our brown sugar. The recipe calls for 165, but we're doing 2 pies, so it's going to be 330. So let's start pouring that out. And I have a scale down here that I'm measuring, just because I like the accuracy of the measurement. So we know 330 grams. So that's like about half the bag. But if you're doing 1 pie, half the recipe. There you go. About 331, but I mean the 1 gram's not gonna make a difference. So we got cinnamon. So we want a teaspoon of the cinnamon. Half teaspoon. We want a teaspoon. Quarter teaspoon. 1 teaspoon. Teaspoon of cinnamon, teaspoon of ground ginger. So I got ginger here. Ginger. Some nutmeg. I got some new nutmeg, so I gotta open the bottle. Let's get nutmeg. Alright, so let's grate our nutmeg in there. It's my first time actually using fresh nutmeg. I usually use the stuff that comes pre-ground in the bottle, but I figure if I'm making it from scratch, do it right. So we want a teaspoon of this, but I think that's good. Clean up as you go, because it's a pro tip, because you don't want a bunch of things to clean up at the end. And it helps you keep organized on to knowing what you've already used and what you still gotta use. So you gotta put cloves, and I think it's a teaspoon of salt. Half a teaspoon of salt, so yeah, a teaspoon of salt. Where's my teaspoon? So you normally put salt to kind of enhance the flavor of the sweetness. So I don't know if you've ever seen like cookies that have like sea salt on top. That helps to enhance the flavor. And I think the clove is less. You don't want too much clove. So quarter teaspoon of cloves. Not too much. There we go. Alright. So that does it for the dry, so we're gonna whisk it now, just to get clumps out of there. Alright, so let's whisk this. Get as many lumps as you can out. You don't want lumps in there, so let's. Alright, let's go in with our wet ingredients now. So that's going to include our pumpkin puree and evaporated milk and 3 eggs per batch, so 6 eggs. I'm going to go and get these open and I'll be right back. Alright, so I'm back. I opened all my cans, cracked my eggs. I got 6 eggs in here. So 2 cans of this Libby's pumpkin puree, and it's a 15-ounce can. And then I got 2 of these evaporated 12-ounce cans of evaporated milk. And so yeah, we're gonna put it in here and whisk it away. So let's start with the eggs. Throw in the milks. So pumpkin pie is essentially a custard pie. So you're making your, milk, sugar, egg, custard, but you know, you can use cream instead of evaporated milk if you want, but I'm trying to stick to the recipe. So then you got 60-ounce can of pumpkin puree. I was gonna bake my own puree, but I heard there's like consistency issues if you try to do it, so I went with the can. And then what I'll do is later on I'll probably try, but since this is for Thanksgiving, I don't want to like try something new and get people upset if the pumpkin pie doesn't come out right. Alright, we can probably speed this part up so that you guys aren't sitting here watching me struggle getting pumpkin puree out of a can. Urgh. Yeah, here we go. That's the first can. Alright, let's start whisking away. I did take the eggs out a little bit ahead of time, just to kind of get them a head start to not be too cold. But let's slowly. Alright, so that's good. I'm going to clean up and we'll be back for the next steps. Alright, so since we last met, I transferred the pie mixture into a stovetop saucepan. And we're just going to heat this up lightly. It doesn't need to be boiling, but just warm to the touch. And so I have it on 2. I might bring it down to 1. But yeah, we're just going to let this warm up a little before we put it in the pie crust. Alright, so while we wait for the pie crust to blind bake, I did put, I'll show you what I did when they come out, but like right now I'm blind baking them. But while we do that, I'm going to start the gravy. So as you can see, I threw in the neck and these are the part of the backbone that I took out when I fast cooked. So I'm just like browning them a little in there, and then we're going to put in our aromatics later. And so once that browns up, our aromatics, I got some onions, celery, parsley, sage, rosemary, and garlic. And so that's all going to go in there once that browns up a little bit. And then we're going to cover it with some chicken stock and let that just kind of brew for most of the day until we're ready to actually make the gravy. So yeah, so here's the pumpkin filling after it's heated up. Kind of see it's not super hot, but it's warm to the touch. And yeah, so this is going to go in the pie when it's done blind baking, and I'll show you how that looks when they come out. So the pot for the gravy is coming along. As you can see, the actual meat's kind of brown. There's a little fond formed up at the bottom. And I ended up throwing in all the aromatics. I still have to put in the herbs. So I still got the rosemary, thyme, and sage here. So I'm gonna put that in at the end after I add the liquid, so it doesn't like destroy the herbs. But yeah, so you can see I kind of put the bed of like stuff at the bottom, and then I took those out and put them back in. And now I'm just letting it kind of cook a little bit. Let it sit there for a little bit, and then I'm gonna add some of the stock when it's done. Alright guys, so I took these out. They blind baked for about 20 minutes on our oven. But you can kind of see I got the pie weights in here. And I got tin foil and some parchment paper, just so it didn't collapse on itself. It's looking alright. I mean, I could have done a little bit better job, but this is my first pie, like I said, making this pumpkin pie for the first time. But yeah, so now we're gonna pour in our warm pumpkin mixture in here, and then we're gonna put it in the oven. Alright, so one step I forgot to mention is I will do an egg wash on the perimeter of it. So I got just an egg beaten up with some cream. You can do it with water or milk. I just had to do cream to just get a little bit extra richness. But yeah, so you just take a pastry brush or any kind of brush and you just go on the side here. You just kind of like brush it on. So we're gonna do that to both of them before we pour in the mixture. Alright, so we brushed it with the egg, and now I'm gonna start putting the mixture in. I could dump it in but I'm gonna use a spoon just so I can control the level a little bit easier and not make too much of a mess. So let's pour it in. I don't know if I mentioned, but the oven to blind bake it was at 425, and then to bake it fully, we're gonna drop it to 400, and then we're gonna drop it again to 350 after like 15 minutes. So let's fill these up. Alright, so we filled up both pies, as you can see. And now we're gonna stick these in the oven at 400 for 15 minutes, I think, and then bring it down to 350 for a few more minutes. Good night, my sweet prince. I do not recommend using your bare hands for that, but bye-bye. Alright guys, so we're going to take our pies out. They're done now. They've been in the oven for about 30-ish minutes at 350 degrees, and it was 15 minutes at 400. So this is kind of what they look like. They look pretty good if I do say so myself. I did do the toothpick check to make sure they were done. The toothpick came out clean, so I'm going to say they're done. And so we're going to take them out now.
I've been trying to convince him to let me sneak a piece, but he won't.
No, we got to let it cool down. Alright, we're going to take these out.
And these are the finished pies. They look really good. And we got gingerbread flavored whipped cream to go on top.
Yeah, we did. Alright, so I just got done marinating, putting the seasonings in it. I did put butter underneath the skin, so like you go underneath the skin. Didn't record it because it's not very pretty, but yeah, this is what it looks like with all the jerk seasoning on it. It took a whole jar, and then some of my green seasonings on there, and so it's gonna go in the smoker as soon as the smoker gets to 250 degrees. So I'm gonna put it on 250 in the smoker for about 2 hours, and then I'm gonna pump it up to like 300 to get it done quicker. But
we didn't want a plain turkey, so we went with something different.
We went jerk this year.
Jerk, yeah.
So it's a jerk turkey.
Yeah.
All right, so this is what the stock's looking like. Kind of see I poured water in there, the onions, the garlic. They're just kind of like marinating in there. But this right here is gonna make a really awesome gravy. One thing, I did leave like all the skin on the onions and the garlic, because this is going to go through like a mesh, so like we're going to strain it anyways. So you don't really need to take the time to peel your garlic and onions and stuff. But yeah, and I still have the neck in there and the backbone. But yeah, so this is what our stock is looking like. It smells really good. Alright, let's take a look at what we got in here. Let's open this up. Check that out. The smell is amazing, guys, but like it might look burnt, but it's not burnt. That's just the seasoning on there. It's a little dark, but that's gonna be some good shit. Just check the temperature. That probe was off a little. I got a second one. I'd rather have it be a little overcooked than under. Let's so I'm trying to get this to 165, and you see it's at 153. Okay, so everybody, this is what we got done. So this is our turkey. It's gonna be the jerk turkey. I smoked it on the smoker. It ended up being more about 6 hours to do it. It's a 17-pound turkey at 225. I brought it up to 300 when it was closer to getting done, just to get it done a little faster. And then we had some friends bring in some jerk chicken. And then we got our sides. We got the sweet potato casserole. We got some corn, macaroni and cheese,
Thanksgiving,
mashed potatoes. Then we have our gravy. And of course, you need to have some greens. So we got cucumber tomato salad. So we're gonna dig in, and then later on I'll show you how the pies look and what dessert we have. All right, so here we go. Here's our pies. Faz's tiramisu kind of got caught on the little foil that was on there, but I'm not gonna eat that. But I heard it's good. And a second pie. So I got 2 pies, and it came out pretty good. I don't see any cracks in it or anything. The only hole is the one I put in there from the toothpick. But I'm gonna make myself a plate. There it is. That's what it looks like. Cut up. Got some gingerbread ice whipped cream that we got from Target. But yeah, that's what the pie came out as. It looks pretty good. Let's see how it tastes. Let's try it. That's good. That's a good apple pumpkin pie. But yeah, we're gonna call it for today. But yeah, that pumpkin pie was good. All right, so that's gonna do it for our Thanksgiving vlog. It's actually the next day because I just got crazy with family yesterday. But yeah, it was fun. Kind of showed you some of the things we made: the pumpkin pie, the turkey. I don't know if we got all the gravy recipe, but you saw how I made my stock and what you can do with some of the insides of the turkey, what you can use those for. Yeah. But yeah, so it was fun. Like always, it's tiring, so we're kind of pooped for now.
Yeah, when you're hosting, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work.
If you know, you know. Yeah. But yeah, so we're gonna sign off now. We're gonna just chill until our next event. But yeah, thanks for coming along. Hope you, and if there's anything that you saw that you want recipes for, put it in the comments. Like if you want to see how we made the mac and cheese or the mashed potatoes, and we can add those in the future vlog and kind of show you how we made those as well.
The only thing I probably wouldn't share is the tiramisu, just because that's a family recipe that was shared with me, and it's not mine to share.
Yep.
So that's the only thing I wouldn't share.
Yeah, that tiramisu is Family Guard's secret right now, so that's the only thing we won't be able to share. But anything else, ask away, and we'll see if we can put it in a vlog in a future vlog. But yeah, so we're gonna sign off. Remember to like,
subscribe,
and favorite the video, and see you on our next adventure.
Bye.
Bye.